Would like to call to order the February 17th, 2020 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. Welcome. It's good to have everyone with us tonight. We would like to start our meeting with, and we do not have anybody to present the colors tonight, so please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are very pleased to have Pastor Bob Page from Connect Church of Charlotte with us tonight for our invocation.
Glad to be here. Thank you, brother. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as we come before you tonight with humble hearts, Father, we thank you that we can gather together as a free people, Father, with these godly leaders that lead us, Father, with integrity and honesty and with forthrightness, Father, and true leadership as servant leaders. And we pray, Father, that you would help these men and women to make good decisions that would honor you and honor the people of this great county of Cabarrus in this great state of North Carolina. Father, we just ask all the words that we say, all the things that we do, all our thoughts would be honoring to you, Father. We love you and we praise you, Father. Thank you for your loving kindness, your mercy, and your grace. For it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We appreciate you being with us tonight. We would like to welcome our Youth Commissioner, Luke Linkle, tonight. I'm glad to have you with us as well.
Thank you.
At this time, we want to have a moment of silence to honor, unfortunately, 3 different people that have passed away in our community. The first of those is Bob Meisenhammer. Bob was the former mayor of Kannapolis, has been a longtime educator in Cabarrus County, and been involved in so many different things in our community. I always used to tell him that his claim to fame was that he was my elementary school principal. And then I would follow that up by saying, you know, that really says a lot about you that an old man like me could have been your student. So we always he had a wonderful sense of humor, and we certainly will miss him. Also, we've lost Troy Barnhart in the last few weeks. Troy has been involved in so many things in Cabarrus County, has been a candidate for commissioner in the past, has chaired our Juvenile Crime Prevention Council and continued to serve on that board, has been a huge influence to youth in our community through his work with the Boy Scouts, former mayor of Mount Pleasant, and so many other things, a lot of things that he was involved in that we probably don't even know about. And then most recently, Mary Catherine Ewart passed away unexpectedly yesterday. Most all of us know Mary Catherine. She also has been involved in many things in our community, has served particularly with our elections, and has been a judge at multiple precincts in the county, and most recently, and was currently serving on our Board of Elections. She had also been a very active volunteer with the Old Courthouse Theater and many other organizations in our community. So certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to all 3 of those families, and certainly these are people that have contributed a lot and will be missed in our community. So please join me in a moment of silence to remember these 3. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our agenda, and of course, first up is our approval or corrections of the minutes, and you all have a copy of those before you. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and we move to the approval of the agenda, and you have copies of that in front of you along with some changes. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda, including the changes on page 29? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and we move to recognitions and presentations. We are very happy to have representatives from our sheriff's office tonight to recognize one of our K-9 members. So I will allow them to come to the podium, if you would, at this time. And we have a presentation for you, but didn't know if you had a few words to say about this retirement before we move to that.
I just want to thank my K-9 team.
Yeah, if you would step up to the microphone for the television audience.
I'd just like to thank my K-9 team for all the hard work they've put into helping me be the best K-9 handler we are.
And can you tell us a little bit about, and I think I'm pronouncing this correctly, Bass?
It's Boss.
Boss.
He's a 10-year-old Czech Shepherd who is trained in narcotics and full patrol, which means he does apprehension, tracking, trailing,
Excellent.
area searching, article searching.
Yes, and how long has he been in service?
He's been service 8 years, and I've had him 6.
Great, all right. And I think Commissioner Honeycutt has a presentation to make as well.
We want to present you with this bed. Yes, and we hope you're going to like it. We have some treats. We have treats. Yeah. And you can play now some. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So we have that for you just to say thank you for your service. And it's, to me, always so impressive when this all comes to a head like this. I think the goal is they want to make you cry tonight from what I hear. But hopefully you won't. But to see all of you guys show up in support and the other K-9s here and just what you give to this community and how much safer you make our citizens. So we just want to say thank you and let you know how much we appreciate you.
I appreciate it very much.
Great.
You're welcome. We appreciate you.
I made the comment at our last retirement recognition that we needed to come up with something maybe other than a clock to give our retirees.
Beds are good.
Yeah, and so maybe we should do that for the humans as well.
Might be a bigger bed.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we move now to informal public comments. I only have one yellow card tonight. That is from Jim Quick. If you would come to the podium.
Hey there, Jim Quick from Concord. I wanted to first come and say thank you to this board and every member of the dais. It got a little heated last month when we were here and some things were said on social media, but I wanted to say thank you personally from the Facebook group to really, we appreciate you taking that stand and supporting Second Amendment. It's really important to that group. There's about 2,500 people that have been activated into the civic environment. Probably many of these people have not been involved in voting and being a lot in their community, and they're very active and very concerned, like you heard a lot about what was happening in Virginia, and so this has activated a new base. So my first intent is to say thank you for passing that resolution. And secondly, I personally sent an email to every member of this dais about red flag laws. And so the purpose there is for us to know where you stand on those red flag laws. So I sent an email to this group at the end of January because we had a great session with Sheriff Shaw out at the Cabarrus Brewery, and that was one of the topics that we wanted to talk about. I do recognize all of you were very busy, and I did not get a response from anyone. And so I sent a second response February 8th. And so Commissioner Honeycutt, you said, if we want to know where you all stand on a position, to contact you, to reach out to you. So I've done that. I wanted to take the time today to say, It is important, so we want to know where you stand. Now, I understand the members of this dais have nothing at all to do about the two bills that I attached, the House bill and the Senate bill that have been filed in the North Carolina General Assembly. I understand that, but this group has asked me to solicit feedback from all of you about where you stand. So I have sent that same email to every member that's running for the North Carolina House to try to get their position on that bill. But I'm here today to say I would appreciate a response because I haven't had one yet. And so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as I said, that was the only card that we have for public comments tonight. So at this time, we will move to our consent agenda. Everything that's on our consent agenda are items that we discussed at length at our work session 2 weeks ago. So do I hear a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And we move to new business. First up, we have an economic development investment for Project Bluebird. And Paige Castrodale will talk with us about that.
Good evening. Paige Castrodale, Existing Industry Director for Cabarrus Economic Development. Project Bluebird is currently located on Aviation Boulevard and is proposing an investment in personal property of between $2.5 million and $4.4 million. Along with this investment, the project also plans to create 40 to 70 new jobs with average wages around $84,000 a year. This company is in the aviation industry. We're asking for you to consider a 3-year, 85% economic development grant. One clarification we wanted to make since the last time we met. Initially, when we brought this to you in closed session, the value of this incentive was coming from the company's investment in personal property, primarily parts and tooling. However, through working with the county's tax assessor's office, it has been determined that the best way to provide this incentive would be through the assessed value of the public service property associated with the project, which is valued by the Department of Revenue and then certified to the county for billing and collection. It is important to note that through our discussions and negotiations, nothing about this project has changed. It remains a 3-year, 85% performance-based tax incentive on the increased tax value that the project will generate, which will now be derived from the public service property as opposed to the parts and tooling that were initially presented. Based on this increased tax value, the grant amount from the county would not exceed $75,000. Estimated net revenue to the county during this 3-year grant period would be between $7,670 and $13,235. I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Paige? Okay, thank you. And this does call for a public hearing, which has been advertised. So at this time, I will open the public hearing and invite anyone to the podium that would like to speak on this matter. Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, what would be your pleasure on this proposed project?
I will make a motion to approve an economic development agreement, 3 years, 85%, between Project Bluebird and Cabarrus County, and to authorize the county manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the board, subject to review or revision by the county attorney.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
No, I would just say I'm excited about $84,000 a year jobs.
Absolutely, yes. We are fortunate to be able to bring those kind of jobs to our community. Any other discussion? Okay, then we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And we move to our next item, which is an economic development investment for Project Grand. And Samantha Moose will talk with us about that one.
Been a moose in several years now. That was
I'm very sorry.
Throwback Thursday on a Monday night. Good evening. I'm Samantha Moosegrass, Recruitment Project Manager for Cabarrus Economic Development. Thank you for the opportunity to present Project Grand this evening. Project Grand is considering to locate at the grounds at Concord. The address there is 2321 Concord Parkway South, Highway 29 in Concord. Project Grand is a high-end integrated kitchen cabinet appliance and customized furnishing manufacturer. The company specializes in both artificial intelligence and advanced ergonomics in their furniture designs. The international company would construct 4 buildings totaling between 700 and 800,000 square feet of space, including their North American headquarters, manufacturing and distribution facility, showroom, R&D design training facility on approximately a 60-acre site located along Highway 29 Concord Parkway. The projected investment is estimated to be $86 million in real and personal property. They also plan to create 256 jobs with average wages above our current county average wage. The Cabarrus County grant analysis is based on that $86 million projected investment in real and personal property. We are asking for your consideration of a 5-year, 85% economic development grant. Estimated grant for that 5-year term is $1,238,753. Net revenue to the county during that grant term is over $218,000. I wanted to include this. We're often asked how long the process takes from being introduced to a project to a location decision. This one was a little unique. It was about 1.5 years. We were first introduced to the project in fall of 2018. That's when we first responded with real estate options for Cabarrus County properties. So I just want to thank this board, staff, county management, county staff for their patience and support during this process to get us to this point this evening and to this point in the process for their potential location decision. Happy to answer any questions that you have as well.
Questions for Samantha? Well, I would just like to say I appreciate you pointing out the length of time that project has occurred. Sometimes I think folks that maybe at our meetings or watching on television think that we make these very important decisions in a very short amount of time, and we don't always remind them that that's not all that's involved. We've, like you said, been involved, and I know that you folks communicated to us early in that process. So it's been 1.5 years of discussions and negotiations and a ton of work on your part, providing all the information. So thank you for what you have done, and thank you for helping us to point out that there is a lot that goes into these other than us just voting in a few minutes during our formal meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and this also has been advertised for a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and invite anyone to the podium that would like to speak on this project. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, what would be your pleasure on this request?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve an economic development agreement, 5 years, 85%, between Project Grand and Cabarrus County, and to authorize the county manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the board, subject to review or revision by the county attorney. Okay,
we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to make just a couple comments very briefly, but and this sort of dovetails on what you were just talking about. In our meeting, we have a public hearing, we hear something, we vote, we move on, and we talk about these things in closed session quite a bit as we're getting details of the deal, but we hardly talk about them out here much at all. And so I wanted to just make a couple comments that I have always been of the belief that economic growth is it's like the magic elixir. It's the tide that rises and raises all the boats. And I know that we're sitting in a very good spot to have a lot of good growth, a lot of good economic development, a lot of companies that want to come here and do business here, and we're excited to have them. This is one of them. And we're sitting in a booming economy, and right now we're fortunate to be able to have companies that want to be here and want to do business in Cabarrus County. And I, for one, am willing to give up a little bit of smidge of tax revenue in the short run for the big payoff in the long run. And the key is that they have to produce. They don't just get something just for showing up. They have to produce to the agreement, or they don't get what what they line up for. So I just wanted to mention that briefly because we just don't really talk about that very often. And I, for one, hail good economic growth all over the country. So thank you for indulging me for a few moments.
Absolutely. Are there other comments? I would like to say I agree with everything that you said, and wanted to point out also that this is a very significant project in that it opens up another portion of the grounds at Concord, which many people know is the former Philip Morris site. But I think that the location of this project, when we approved the Carvana project several months ago, there were lots of folks, and I think some still do think that that's the entire property out there. I think we pointed out when we approved that project that was about 4% of the total acreage, so there's a lot there. This one is 60 acres. It's going to be a little bit more visible right up on 29, but once again, that is a tiny percentage of the potential that exists there. So we're going to see, I think, quite a few other very significant projects on that site. Some of the infrastructure that's being put in place to accommodate this project is going to benefit other portions of the property as well. So I think this is just one of many to come. I certainly believe that and hope that that's the case. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to make a comment, too, about economic development since we're on this subject, which is really a good subject. But I was over at the Central Iowa Council of Governments meeting last Wednesday. My days get mixed up. But we were talking about the Carvana project. And between the Central Iowa Council of Government and the Workforce Development, North Carolina Works, they held a job fair here on Church Street, just the end of January and also the 1st of February, where that Carvana and those other entities there did this job fair. They had 525 applicants come through there, and during that period of time, they did the interviews, the drug screening, and all the things that you have to do to make a hire these days. And of the 525, they hired 317. And that's jobs. And that's what economic development's about, getting jobs, getting the tax base in here. And all of those folks will start to work at Carvana. I couldn't believe it had moved quite that fast, but they start to work on February 24th with full benefits, full-time, full benefits, 317 jobs. And so I just I felt like I had to bring that out because what we do with economic development, Robbie Carney and his staff there, they're continually working, not just in the United States, but globally, to bring industry and manufacturing jobs here because it puts our people in a better position, and it puts us in a better position because of the tax revenue. So I'm wholeheartedly supportive of economic development. We have to incentivize them to come, and there's one thing that I've learned, that if we don't do it, the other ones will. And we're constantly competing against surrounding counties. South Carolina, upstate South Carolina, we're constantly competing with these people. And they offer a whole lot more than we do, but somehow we end up getting our share of them. And I think it's because the quality of life in Cabarrus County and the things that we just have to offer here that a lot of the other areas don't have. So for me, to economic development, Robbie and your staff, thank you. Hope to see a whole lot more of these type projects coming around here soon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments? As I've said before, there are, and I wish I had the time to research it, but there are many counties in the state of North Carolina that probably has never had an 84, was it 84 or 86 million? $86 million investment from a new company coming into their community. So we are very fortunate to be able to talk about multiple projects at one meeting. So if there's no further discussion, we will move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you. We move now to, from Active Livings and Parks, Youth Athletic School Facility Use Agreement. And we are happy to have Londa Strong with us to talk about that.
Thank you. Thanks for that plug on quality of life. We work hard to provide that here in Cabarrus County.
Well, if I can interrupt you just 1 minute, there was a pretty significant article in the Charlotte Observer within the last 2 weeks talking about one of the major companies in Charlotte, and that was the headline. A trip to Lake Norman resulted in a major investment. So our parks and the things that we offer do not go unnoticed by these economic development clients that come and look at us. So I'm sorry.
Oh, no, we hear that quite often, and we're glad to be able to provide what we do. All right, youth athletics. I guess I should give you a little background on this, since this will be the first time a lot of folks are hearing this. As of January 1st, we no longer are involved in youth athletics. I know you all know that, but a lot of folks don't. Currently, there is a school use agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education for use of those facilities at no cost. The school wishes for us to continue to be the, so to speak, middleman and make the request for each of the associations and or municipalities. So instead of the 40-page document that we had between us and each of the volunteer athletic associations or the municipalities, we've come up with like a 3-page agreement, which I believe you have, that goes over the basics. And that's what since we're not involved in it, we've tried to keep it down to the basics, not tell the associations or leagues what they can play, how they can play, when they can play. But there are some certain things in dealing with time of when they have to leave in the evenings, curfew, and a few other things like that. So when we presented this at the work session, one of the questions that was brought up by you all was about the time frame of which when we originally sent it out to the associations, they had requested a 9:30 for anyone over 12 years old, 10 years old, instead of 8:30, which is what we originally had. And that was based on the number of teams, the number of groups that use the facilities. It's not just basketball, it's not just volleyball, it's band, it's guard, it's cheerleaders, it's everything that uses the facility. So it makes it hard on them to get in there and at least let them have one practice a week before they play on Saturdays. So we made some changes to the agreement on times. And practices and games, 8:30 p.m. would be the curfew Monday through Thursday for ages 8 and under, 9:30 for ages 9 to 12, and 10 o'clock for ages 13 to 15, and 10 o'clock on Friday and Saturday night when there's no school following. So those are the changes that we have made since we last presented it. And the reason that we're currently staying in the middle is that the school system didn't want to have an agreement with each of the associations or the municipalities, or they were going to have to charge them. So Mr. Downs and Dr. Louder, we've had some conversations and are still working through that. But currently, this is where we are, and this is the agreement that we asked for you all to look at tonight. Do you have any questions on that hopefully brief summary?
No, I think it was just defining that smaller age group at a little earlier time was the only thing that we thought, and it sounds like that's what you did. So I think we're, at least I'm satisfied.
Okay, well, kudos for working that out. I think it's really important to the taxpayers of Cabarrus County. We invest a lot of money in school facilities, so when the county can facilitate the use of that by these other groups and open those facilities up to community activities like this, I think that's of benefit to everyone. So thank you for making that happen.
Well, and I would like to also add that the reason, we didn't just decide we want to get out of youth athletics. It has just grown at such a pace that we had one person that was dealing with all of the teams and the sports and the different associations in the county, and it really outgrew us. And we couldn't keep up with what it needed. I mean, we did some budget work and stuff, and it was going to add $500,000 to our budget every year, and that's after the initial year was like 1.2 or 3 million, something like that, buying equipment and things like that. So that was our way of dealing with it. We didn't want to provide a program that wasn't up to par. We didn't want to be a part of that, so it's like, let's see what we can do, and this is where we are.
Right. Well, I'm sure it's like many other things we do. We'll come up with a good solution, and then we'll be looking at it again in a couple
That's
of
right.
years and seeing if we need to go a different direction. Are there any other questions for Londa? Okay, thank you.
And if you keep making your retirement gifts better, I might think about it.
Well, in that case, we won't then. Okay, commissioners, what would be your pleasure on this request?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the facility use agreement as presented with the
Great.
changes that she presented us.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And we move to Finance, City of Kannapolis, Cabarrus County Interlocal Agreement Amendments. Susan Farrington's with us. Skipped one. It's okay. Yeah, I'll go back to that one. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so on December 15th of 2010, the City of Kannapolis and Cabarrus County entered into the original interlocal agreement in order to cooperate in the financing of certain improvements by the city to support the development of their North Carolina Research Campus, if you remember back in 2010. This includes the Cabarrus Health Alliance building. Currently, the county makes semi-annual payments up to 1/2 of their debt service on the Kannapolis financing. So the financing is through Kannapolis, but we make up to half of their payment. The funds for the half payments comes from incremental tax revenues generated by improvements and increased property values on the property designated at the time back in December of 2010 agreement. We refer to this as the TIF district, so it's a tax incremental financing. The district does generate enough tax revenues to make the half semi-annual payments. The first debt payment was made by the county during FY13, and we are scheduled to make payments for 15 years. The final payment to be made will be in FY27. The county payments are approximately about $1.5 million each year. We have 7 years remaining on the debt. The City of Kannapolis approached us to let us know there were savings if we refinance the debt. The refinancing will also benefit the county. If the debt service on the financing decreases, then our 1/2 payment decreases. The term of the refinancing will not be the term of the refinancing will not exceed the number of years of the original financing, so it will still be finished in 2027. Currently, the interest rate is 4.88%, and this new refinancing interest rate will be 1.84%. So over the remaining 7 years, we will save approximately $165,000 a year, and a 7-year savings are anticipated to be about $1.1 million. The City of Kannapolis anticipates a March 18th, 2020 closing date, and the first year savings will be recognized during our FY21 budget year. So that's the background.
Excellent. Questions for Susan? Thank you. I can't imagine any reason that we would not be happy to save $1 million a year, or $1 million on the term of the loan. So do I hear a motion on this matter?
I will make a motion to approve the amendment number 1 to the interlocal agreement between the City of Kannapolis and Cabarrus County.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Now I will go back to number 4 that I skipped, and this is a request from the town of Mount Pleasant for a sewer easement, and Jonathan Marshall will talk with us about that.
I'm going to introduce this item, but Randy Holloway from the town of Mount Pleasant is here to respond to your questions. When we presented this, it's a request from the town of Mount Pleasant for a sewer line easement through the middle school and high school property off of Walker Road, Mount Pleasant Middle, Mount Pleasant High. There were some questions from the commissioners, and the town has responded to those. I sent that information out to you, but I did ask that Randy come here this evening and he can go over some of that information and then also be able to respond to any questions you may have. And again, I did want to point out too that the Board of Education has already recommended approval of this.
Thank you, Commissioners and staff. I'd like to just give you a quick history about this project. It actually started about 12 years ago when the owners of the Green Acres Mobile Home Park, CM Black, and the school system went together and worked with WASAC to expedite a sewer pump station on Highway 49 beside GMAX Automotive. It's my understanding that the sewer system at the high school was failing and they needed a remedy for that. So Green Acres paid $135,000. I'm not sure what CM Black paid. They have 86 acres at the intersection of 49 and 73 that they want to develop someday. And then the school system needed access to a sewer pump station. So that started back in '08. The sewer pump station is in place and being used by the 2 schools, and that's the only sewer going to that sewer pump station right now. The economy tanked, so I think the owners of the mobile home park, and some history that dates me, so I'm not really sure, I'm making some assumptions. They just put that project on the back burner and never actually ran the line. 2 years ago, they came to the town and asked for consideration for that mobile home park to be revised into a single unit subdivision. It was approved for 37 units, homes in the 250 to 300,000 range. Everything went through, and then for some reason that group decided not to proceed with that development and then chose to put it up for sale. There's an offer apparently on the table right now from a local developer that would like to come in and build those 37 homes. And part of the due diligence is to make sure that all the easements are in place. And everything is in place, the engineering is in place, the survey is in place, and all the easements have been granted with the exception of the one across the back of the high school property. So it will be a public easement. The developer would put the line in, and then that becomes a town-owned line because it's connecting to a WASAC line that's already in place. So we're asking your consideration for a 20-foot easement across the very back of the high school property. It follows an unnamed tributary. It's pretty much in floodplain, and it would serve that 37 unit subdivision. It's going to be a very long line, very expensive, about 5,000 feet. So it's going to be a long line for a small subdivision. But that subdivision was the first subdivision approved for Mount Pleasant since Oldenburg was approved in the late 1980s. So we're not busting at the seams in Mount Pleasant. It is hard to find a home in Mount Pleasant. We had 1 new home built last year, and unfortunately 2 torn down. So we went -1. So we would appreciate your consideration of that. And just give you an idea, that little 37 lot subdivision will increase our tax base by 8%.
Wow.
I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I want to make more of a thank you for your response to the inquiry, since it had been a while. I do want to make a comment. Where this line goes is on the farm portion at the high school, and the contractors need to understand that they can't take the fence down without putting up another fence because there are animals there.
Yes.
And that's exactly where that goes, because it goes down towards the creek. So whenever the work begins, both schools specifically, the principals at both schools need to be notified, and if you can please just remind them that that is a working farm with goats and sheep that like to get out on their own, and they don't need any assistance in getting out, especially the goats. They like to go to the middle school because they have newer grass at the middle school. So, but if you can make sure that they're very much aware of that.
Our Public Works Director and our town engineer will be closely monitoring that work.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Great. Any additional questions for Mr. Holloway? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, what would be your pleasure on this request?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion to approve the easement between Cabarrus County and the town of Mount Pleasant and authorize our county manager to execute the easement on behalf of Cabarrus County, subject to the review or revisions by our county attorney.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? And of course, as you all know, we've talked about this once at our work session as well, so it's not something new to us. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next up from Finance, Limited Obligation Bonds 2020, an update, and we welcome Susan Farrington back.
Okay. For many months, I've been coming to you with the required resolutions and steps that are needed for our county so we can issue the debt for the courthouse, land for a high school, and construction of a new middle school, repairs to the Governmental Center skylight and roof, and some sports turf fields. I'm happy to announce that on February 4th, the Local Government Commission approved our LOBs, Limited Obligation Bonds, draw program, and on February 27th, we anticipate signing the paperwork. To sell the debt, we worked through our underwriter, and we were able to place the debt with SunTrust Bank, which is now Truist, at a current rate of 1.6%. As explained in earlier meetings, the new debt is a draw program where we will draw funds as we need them from SunTrust and only pay interest on the amount drawn and not on the full amount that we will need, which is $130 million. We plan to do this for the first 24 months and then turn the amount spent into permanent debt. That's how the draw program works. Without the draw program, we would have had to borrow all of our project amounts up front and begin making annual debt service payments in FY21 of $11 million. That would have been our first year's debt service. But through the draw program expense payments, we're anticipating paying $975,000. So a little less than $1 million versus paying $11 million for the annual principal and interest payments. Included in your agenda is one large budget amendment, it's like 4 pages long, and 5 project ordinances. The budget amendment and the project ordinances provide a mechanism for us to track the projects into 2 funds ultimately. We'll have a county capital projects fund and a school capital projects fund. All of the previous established budgets will be moved to the new school funds because you remember in the courthouse, we've been spending money for the courthouse for a couple years now and paying cash for things. All those budgets will be put into one place so you can see a total of the amount of costs for the courthouse as we go forward the next several years. The full amount of the courthouse and the middle school will be set up and anticipated future funding noted on the capital projects funds. And they're approved through this project ordinance. For example, the courthouse and middle school will not be completed in the first 24 months. We have debt for our debt draw program right now for 24 months, but we need a mechanism to be able to say this project's going to last more than 24 months. We have to establish on our project ordinance another debt that's going to come out in 2 years later to finish up those 2 projects. The project ordinance in the budget amendment has a line that says next anticipated 2022 draw program on your project ordinances. So at 2022, we'll come to you for the remaining funding of the courthouse and the middle school. And per the discussions with our financial advisor and the Local Government Commission, we need to go ahead and budget for the full amount of the courthouse and the middle school and list the funding as our next draw program that will not take place again until 2022. By going ahead and budgeting and approving the project ordinances, this gives us the ability to sign contracts for the full amount. And there might be some questions on that, because it is different than what we've done in the past.
I do have a question, Susan. I just thought about it as we was going through this, and maybe I misunderstood what you said, but you said that like in times past, if we just dumped $130 million, we'd pay around $11 million a year in debt service.
Yes.
But by doing it this way in installments, we would be paying $975,000. But now here's the question. And the finance team would have to probably tell me more about this, but all we're gonna be paying in that $975 is the interest.
Correct.
Can we pay more than the interest so that whenever we do the back end of this loan, it won't be as much? Now, I don't know how that's gonna affect what the staff has, but is there a way that we could add to that? Instead of paying $975, pay $1.5 million?
If you remember, we established our capital community investment fund. And so our money, any monies that we have will accumulate in that fund, so they're not going away. So as we build capital and money in that fund, so we can do some pay-go projects, we can also accumulate money, so when it comes time to do our debt, permanent debt financing, then we would have some extra money there that we could go ahead and make some payments. But right now, there's nothing for me to pay ahead to the bank because we will only owe the amount of interest on the amount of funds borrowed. So there is no bill for the principal until we take it out in permanent debt. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes perfect sense to
It's
do
just
it like
different.
that, because we just started that program as well,
Yes.
that particular type of accounting. And it's just a good example of continually trying to make things better in finance as well as everything. We're just trying to move forward and, make it better for everybody. And nobody likes debt, but then again, to get the things that we need, there has to be debt, because I don't know anybody laying around $130 million that's going to just cough it up and say, here, go build your courthouse and your middle school and all this stuff. So this is our only way of doing it. And with all the other needs of the county and the staff trying to work, how we're going to fund this, how we're going to fund that, it would be hard to give up an additional $525,000 to go toward this, to reduce the net at the end of the project. But like you said, though, as the monies build in those two accounting methods, then there might be something that we could budget to help bring that amount down, which in fact, Rodney gave us a good presentation here a few months back on building capacity.
Yes.
So that would help build capacity, because there's a lot more things that's coming right behind this. This is not it. There's a lot more coming. And if we can build capacity to do those things, we're going to just be by far better off and plan ahead. That's what we'd be doing. We'd be planning ahead. Thank you, Susan. Did a great job on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Susan? Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioners, do I hear a motion to approve the budget amendment to record the 2020 limited obligation bonds and the related project ordinances?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion. We've talked about this a lot too over quite a few meetings. So it's there have been a lot of questions asked and answered. Okay, if there's no discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you. And we move now to G7 from Infrastructure and Asset Management, a presentation for the Governmental Center skylight replacement and roof replacement. And we're happy to have Michael Miller with us.
Good evening, and thank you. I've got a couple of handouts here for each of you that outlines the construction costs for the project. The Governmental Center skylight project and roof replacement project has come to its next step in the process. on its way to becoming a reality. And tonight, I wanted to give you an update of where we're at with the project, and ultimately present to you a guaranteed maximum price for the project that's been prepared by Ike's Construction. Andy Messmer and David Eisenhower with Ike's Construction are here to help with the presentation as needed, as is Kyle Billifer. So in September of 2019, the Board of Commissioners gave approval to proceed with Ike's Construction as the construction manager at risk for the project. A pre-construction contract was entered into between the county and Ike's Construction. The design of the project was then completed by our architects, CE Design of Charlotte, North Carolina, and bids were advertised on the county's website. On February 6, 2020, bids were received. However, in multiple bid categories, there were not enough bids received to proceed according to North Carolina General Statute, and a second bid opening was scheduled on February 14th, 2020. After the second bid opening, we were good to proceed, and now having bids in hand, Ike's Construction has established a guaranteed maximum price for the project of $1,981,484, which is approximately $300,000 under budget based off of their last construction estimate. So the next step in the project is to amend the pre-construction contract with Ike's Construction and include the GMP and to proceed with construction. So the requested action of the board is for a motion to approve the amendment to the existing contract between Cabarrus County and Ike's Construction and authorize the county manager to execute the contract on behalf of Cabarrus County, subject to review or revisions by the county attorney. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Okay, questions for Michael? Does this mean these 5-gallon buckets lined around the hall catching water are going to go away?
Yes, sir, that's what this means.
That'd be a real good thing, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, you've heard the presentation. Once again, this is something we've talked about several times, or more than several times probably. So what would be your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the existing contract between Cabarrus County and Ike's Construction and authorize the county manager to execute the contract on behalf of Cabarrus County, subject to review and revisions by the county attorney.
Second motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? I think this building is now 35 years old? 1990. 30 years old? Yeah. So it's, it has held up well, but it needs attention like we all do after that period of time. If there's no further discussion, then we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Okay, we move now to reports. First from Board of Commissioners, updates from commission members who serve as liaisons to municipalities or on various boards or committees. Commissioner Honeycutt.
Have a few announcements from the Acting Living and Parks Senior Center. The Senior Health and Wellness Day is Wednesday, March the 11th from 10:30 to 2 p.m. at the arena. There will be all kinds of health screening and activities for seniors, and so I would encourage people to try to take time and attend that. I think there'll be a lot of good opportunities. Also, a pickleball tournament is 9 a.m. Thursday, February the 27th at Hartselle Recreation Center. And the Cabarrus Senior Games will be starting soon, so you can check the website, cabarruscounty.us/seniors. And then the Concord Senior Book Club, this month's book is Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt, March 17th, 10 a.m. So that's just a drop in the bucket to the activities that happen at the Senior Center, but feel free to check those out on the website.
Great, thank you. Okay, other commissioners, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned earlier in one of my comments, I attended the Central Carolina Council of Government meeting last week, and I was proud to have my table full of Cabarrus Countyans. We had Mayor Hennett from Kannapolis, we had Mayor Crump from Midland, and one of his council members, Darren Hartselle, and then we had a representative from Harrisburg, Troy Salesburg, and myself. So all of our municipalities were represented except for Mount Pleasant. And we'll have to work on them a little bit, because what it does is just helps us bring members of our delegation in Cabarrus County together to work collaboratively with the Central Iowa Council of Government to make things, again, better in Cabarrus County. And so I was just real happy to see the participation that we had on Wednesday. So when I first started going to that, I was the only one for the county that was there. But now, since then, Concord has joined, Harrisburg is getting active, and of course, Midland's been a member, and then I'm pretty sure that Kannapolis is going to join the CCOG as well. And so, so I thought we was doing real good on that, and I wanted to just let you know that that was a pretty good thing in my thoughts.
Right. Thank you. Anybody else? I'll just mention a couple things. I had mentioned the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council earlier. That board is extremely active and is looking at programs and additional funding from the state that have resulted from the Raise the Age legislation that has passed over the last year or so. So that's creating some opportunities for them. I also represent on the Board of Health. Several months ago, we recognized Director Pilkington on his retirement. So that board has been extremely busy and active recruiting a new director, and they will have an announcement that will be coming forward very shortly. Also serve on the Transportation Advisory Board, which I like. I'm always interested to hear the trips that they have, and of course those are the Cabarrus County transportation vans that you see all around the county. Many of those trips, a large majority of those are taking folks to medical appointments, to dialysis. There's a whole list of things, but so far this year, they have made 44,664 trips. So that is a lot of driving around Cabarrus County, but that is a service that is very much needed and appreciated, I think, by those recipients, that allows them to take care of their medical needs and other things. I think they also provide transportation to our lunch sites, which are very important as well. So those folks do an excellent job. Any other comments? Okay, any general comments by board members?
I would like to make one general comment. I've heard some grumbling this week and a lot of talk, as we all have, about the revaluation, and heard people talking about that they got a tax bill this week. And I would just like to say, in today's vernacular, that's fake news. Nobody got a tax bill this week. What they got was a valuation of their property so that we can then move forward in the process. So I just wanted to clarify that. We talk about, again, it's one of those things we talk about a lot. So we talk about the process step by step by step. People get something in the mail, and it does say at the top, this is not a bill, because I did go make sure and look at mine, and it does say that at the top, but nobody got a tax bill this week. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And I know your Mr. Threed is here, and I'm sure his phone has been ringing this week, but that's, as I told somebody this week, that's the good news. That's part of the process. We do allow an appeal process because we are human, his office is human, and mistakes can be made, but they do the best that they can. It's not just throwing numbers on a wall or something, just writing something at random down on a piece of paper. There's actually fact and science behind what they do. But if you think a mistake has been made, by all means, within 30 days, file the appeal, you get the clock running, and you go from there. But we do appreciate all the hard work that David's office has done.
Thank you. There has been quite a bit of topic about discussion about revaluation over the last week, and the comments that I've heard have been the full range. I've heard people say, my value went up too much. I've heard people say, I'm very disappointed. My value didn't go up as much as I expected it to. I've heard other people say mine's right on target. I heard somebody say, well, mine went up, but it still isn't as much as the appraisal that I had done when I refinanced my house last year. So you probably need to check on that, David. But that, as you stated, there is an appeals process to that. I would also encourage folks to go to the Cabarrus County webpage. There's a very informative page there that explains the process, give links to all the supporting documents, and includes a video that explains the process as well. So I would encourage everyone to go and take a look at that. And so if there is nothing else, we do not have need of a closed session tonight. So I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before we vote on that, I did want to mention one thing. Our next work session will be March the 9th. That is a week later than normal. We normally meet the first Monday. This will be the second Monday, and then our regular meeting in March will be on March 23rd, which is also a week later. And that's a result of some other conflicting events that we had, so we want to make sure people don't get confused about that. So we now have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We stand adjourned. Thank you.